Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Wyoming Small Business Development Center webinar, Protecting Your Phone from Cybercriminals. I'm Tyler. I'll be helping facilitate the beginning of this session. The Wyoming Small Business Development Center is a statewide resource funded by the Wyoming Business Council and the U.S. Small Business Administration. We offer free confidential advice to all Wyoming entrepreneurs and small business owners. Our advisors are located across the state, and they can help you start a business, grow your existing business, or recover from challenges. So I'd like to introduce Paul Johnson, a member of the Wyoming SBDC network and manager of our cybersecurity program. Take it away, Paul.
All right, thank you, Tyler, and welcome everyone to our monthly cybersecurity webinar on phone security, something we haven't really touched on a lot in these monthly webinars, but it's becoming a bigger concern all the time. So we're going to present maybe a little more technical information here today than we have in some of these past webinars, which is good. We need to start digging a little bit deeper into some of this stuff. And we may run a little past the half hour today because our presenters have put together quite a bit of information for you. So let's get on to our presenters. Two of our program assistants here are also UW students. Kaeden Adams is a Geographic Information Systems major, GIS, and Ian Moon is a computer science major with a certificate in cybersecurity. So they bring some good technical knowledge to this topic, and I'm going to let them take it away, and I'll pop in at the end just to talk about our cybersecurity program a little bit. So, Kaeden, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Paul. So first we're going to start with kind of going over where we're going today. We're going to start by talking about some of the problems people face with phone cybersecurity, some of the physical attacks and cyber attack methods, and then we're going to get into some of the solutions, right? Talking about backups and antiviruses for your phone. So breaking it down, right? Phones are computers. Just like any other computer, they are vulnerable to all kinds of attacks. Many of us use phones more often than we use any other kind of computer. We usually keep lots of personal, private information on them, and that makes them very appealing targets to hackers and other malicious software. So what threats do we need to worry about? First of all, phishing. Phones are communication devices primarily. This makes them very appealing targets for phishing. I'm sure everybody here has experienced a robocall, a fraudulent text, spam emails. They all try to get personal information from you, like passwords, usernames, and banking information, by either pretending to be somebody you know or by creating a sense of urgency. The end goal, again, is either to get that information or to try to get you to install malware onto your personal device. So how you get around that is, if you don't recognize the number, don't answer it. If it is important enough, they will leave a message. Alternatively, if it is if somebody's trying to call you, look up that number and see if it's a company that you are expecting a call from, and then maybe call them back. If somebody does text or email you and their message seems suspicious, maybe there are spelling errors or content you wouldn't expect in that message, try reaching out to them through another method, right? Try calling a different number that they own, right? Call somebody they live with. Reach out to them in person is the most preferable way of doing this, if possible, just to confirm that that suspicious email or message did in fact come from them and it's not, again, a phishing attempt. Be wary of email promotions. Make sure to carefully inspect that email address of the sender to see if there's anything wrong with it. Usually they use a different domain, that email, right? Instead of @gmail.com, it might be something else. Just keep a careful eye on that part of the email to see if that looks suspicious at all.
Can I jump in for just a second?
Absolutely.
People are unable to really inspect those links and email addresses on the small phone screen, so they just automatically click things. So the best tip there is, if you don't know what that email is or exactly who it's from, wait until you can inspect it on a larger screen so you can really scrutinize that email address, because they've gotten really crafty with slightly misspelling company names on email addresses, and that might not be as easy to pick up on a phone screen. And another thing I was just thinking about when you said, don't answer the call if you don't know where it's from. I don't know if anybody's been through this, but we recently refinanced our home and my credit was looked into, and apparently my setting was not correctly set at the credit bureaus to not have solicitors get access to that information. My phone rang 100 times over 2 days from mortgage companies across the country. And one trick I found, if you're getting constantly slammed by somebody, is as soon as they say hello, say to them, did I call you about something? And they hang up immediately. So that must be some sort of trigger word in the industry. We used to be able to be put on a no call list, but that must be some tricky thing that they know, all right, we are not going to call this number back. And the phone call stopped when I answered a few of them. So just a couple phone things I've found in the recent experiences out there.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was a very insightful addition. Getting into QR codes. QR codes are kind of in a similar category to phishing, at least the way they can be used maliciously. Nowadays, QR codes are very plentiful and commonly used. You see them really often. Put on flyers, on menus, to provide coupons, various things. QR codes can lead you to malicious sites, and kind of what Paul was saying, where you can't very carefully inspect links on your phone. Some devices you can't inspect that where it actually brings you. QR codes, these malicious sites they can lead you towards, will run small programs on your phone to quickly grab information or download malware before you can actually respond to it. It's very easy when you think about it to actually cover, if you're given a menu at a restaurant, there's a sticker over the QR code, there's a good chance that QR code is probably a malicious plant. Some of the solutions for QR codes. Don't scan any QR codes you get from suspicious locations. These can include random codes in the streets, suspicious emails, or if the QR code looks to be poorly placed, right? So if it's not perfectly squared, if it looks a little skewed, maybe it's a sticker and was put there afterwards. Treat them like links to websites that you can't read the full URL of, right? That's a good rule of thumb for most of these phishing adjacent problems. And again, QR codes are essentially another way to format a link to a website. And once again, treat them like those links that you cannot fully read the URL of. Make sure you check that link. That is the biggest piece for QR codes and for phishing as a whole. Jumping over to wireless networks. Open Wi-Fi networks, like at a cafe or a library, are very popular to get information to phones, right? So the problem becomes free Wi-Fi networks can track whatever you do on that network. So some people will sit in cafes and will create their own fake Wi-Fi that essentially will track whatever information. When you connect to it automatically, they'll track whatever information that you enter, right, and see what you're doing, see where websites you're on, what files you're accessing, assuming that they go through the World Wide Web. And obviously, that's very invasive. Additionally, Bluetooth networks can also be used to gather similar information. Bluetooth is constantly broadcasting and can very easily be hijacked by another system and probed for information. For example, keyloggers are a common type of device used to input a rapid series of text into a device. A Bluetooth device set up to connect to a device like your phone, disguised as a speaker or something else, could very easily run that program if you connect to it on your device with no time to respond. Some of the solutions to this is don't connect to any unknown or free Wi-Fi network. That alone significantly reduces the risk of getting any kind of virus or malware on your phone. Most cafes and libraries will have their own Wi-Fi that usually has a very simple password to it, basically to just ensure that there's some protection there. Using a VPN is another good way to kind of help prevent some of these Wi-Fi networks from storing your information, also prevents tracking. And then turn off Bluetooth when not in use. Basically, right, if it's off, people can't access it, and that prevents any of those miscellaneous connections that could cause problems.
So let's say the first time I visited my friendly local neighborhood coffee shop, I connected to their network. So now that's going to be on my network list. And as time goes by, I'm thinking, I'm probably not going to trust that network. So the next time I pop in there, what happens if it automatically attaches to that network? How can you prevent that from automatically happening?
More than often, there are settings inside of phones that you can tell, oh, don't automatically connect to this network just by simply going into your phone's settings, going under Wi-Fi, going into that specific Wi-Fi connection and say, onto the toggle, do not automatically connect to this network, or even just forget this network entirely. So that way it will never automatically reconnect to that network if it's nearby.
Great. And since we have the VPN bullet up there and we've heard from you, Ian, can you describe to us what a virtual private network actually is and why it can be protective for your phone and how you can install one?
Certainly. So most VPNs are going to be a system that takes your information and encrypts it over the World Wide Web until it gets to its desired destination, which is either a server, another computer, or anything else that you're connecting to. It helps to prevent what we call man-in-the-middle attacks, where people basically sit on that traffic looking for any packages that they can just grab and read the information of. So when it comes to installing a VPN onto your phone, majority of VPN services now have applications that you can just install onto your phone, log into, and just simply turn on with a simple like 2-button press system. That's really what it kind of comes down to for that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have here.
Alrighty. Public charging. This is a newer thing. USB lightning cables are ways to transfer information. Recently, within the last 2 years, really begun to become more popular, where charging blocks and cables have been designed with the capability to transfer malware. It's not very widespread yet, as it is relatively new, but it is a new thing to be worried about. Again, don't use those public charging stations if you can avoid it.
Especially certain types, like ones that are just the USB slot, they can typically be the most dangerous, as people can just simply open them up and put whatever software they want onto them and would never know by the people originally hosting it.
Thank you, Ian. So as far as passwords are concerned, logins and passwords are stored on our phones, right? We go to many of the same websites as we do on our computers, and we also use our phones to store lots of login information. Using Password Manager is a very easy way to help protect logins and passwords on phones. That means if your phone is compromised, your information is safely encrypted and cannot be easily read by a would-be hacker or other malicious entity. Especially, again, with how popular things like two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication is on mobile devices, making sure that your phone, you can still access all of those computer programs through your phone is vital. Keeping your phone up to date. And simply, keeping your phone up to date can very easily help prevent viruses and other malware. Phone updates fix vulnerabilities in your phone's operating system, as well as enhancing your phone's performance, especially with newer phones where there are new malware types being discovered that specifically affect that version of that operating system. Making sure you keep your phone up to date will help fix those new discoveries and those new developing malware to help keep your phone safe. Again, I know it's not feasible for everybody, but using separate work and home phones is another great way of keeping your information safe. Having separate phones obviously keeps your personal information separate from your work information in case of a breach. This keeps you and your employer safer as a result, right? So that way, nobody gets no information, or at least your information is compartmentalized. So what you do lose is at least not everything. All right, tossing it over to Ian.
Thank you. And one of the biggest things that we also need to remember to do is to back up our phones. Just like our computers, things happen, we lose our phones, something happens. Having backups of your phone so you always have information readily available is important. It's also important on your phones to have passcodes, passwords set up so that way if you do lose your phone and someone finds it, they can't gain access to it, and under a certain number of attempts in a 5-minute time frame, everything gets wiped. In addition to that, you can also encrypt your backups. Majority of phones now have the ability to just encrypt your information automatically when you're backing it up with just a simple password so you can access it later in case you need to either restore your phone, get information back from it, or if you're just transferring to a new phone. And having antiviruses on your phone is also a great use and has become a lot more popular nowadays. The same antiviruses that you typically have on your computer, you'll probably also find they have a phone variant as well. It's very useful to make sure that you can find any malicious code on your phone in order to be able to protect it, delete it, and continue using your phone just as you would. And it can also help you detect anything else that's potentially going on your phone, like any sort of information that shouldn't be being grabbed, rerouting you to different websites when you shouldn't be, and can even just be useful to help monitor to make sure that in case you do accidentally hit one of those links, it stops it before anything can happen. And here we have a couple of antiviruses that we've looked at and typically do work really well on phones. We don't really want to endorse anything, but you should look into these if you want. These are just a few examples. There's a whole lot more that you could go out and look at and find what's best for you.
All right. As always, we don't make endorsements or recommendations, but we just provide information for you to do further research on your own to see what products work best for you. We just like to throw a few names out there, ones that we believe are reputable and worth looking into. Before I get into our Cybersecurity for Small Business program pitch here, I do just have a couple of questions. But first, I think it was great that you brought up the separate personal phone and separate business phone. I know it's a pain to maintain two phones, but one of the things that we really try to talk to our clients about is whether you're using a laptop or phone for business, to either create dual accounts on your laptop if you can't afford to purchase an additional laptop just to run your business. Creating an extra account, I heard from a cybersecurity person yesterday, is at least something you can do to not intermingle data, I guess is the main goal here. So whenever you can keep your business and your personal devices separate, it's always a good idea. Ian, I'm going to throw this to you. What if we went through all of those steps and we somehow still got malware on our phone? How would we know it's on there? Would we know what information somebody took, and how can we get it off of there?
It's really difficult to know what information gets grabbed because a lot of the malicious code that tends to run on the phones just grabs as much information as it can and will just take it off and move it to a secure location. Most of the time, the easiest way to look at detecting and finding it is with those antiviruses, because they will typically look at all the files on your phone, and if they find something that shouldn't be there or has been recently identified as a problem, it will look at it, acknowledge what it is, and will hopefully try and lock it down so it can't do anything. And then at a later date, it will prompt you, the user, to look at this file and check to make sure that, yes, this is a malicious file, and then it can most of the time end up deleting it off of itself perfectly fine. In the few rare cases where it's not, that's where the phone backups become very important, because you can hopefully have a backup of your phone before that malicious program got onto the phone, and you can just restore back from there.
Is your service provider any help here?
Not usually. Your service provider doesn't really get that deep into the actual usage of the phone. It would depend more on any sort of actual care system that is provided through the actual phone's manufacturer rather than your ISP.
Okay. I guess that's what I meant was, is Sprint going to help me, or Verizon, if my phone gets jacked up from malware?
Most likely not.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that. Like most things cybersecurity related, we're responsible for the whole process, right?
Yep.
I would also say that I know that many password managers that I've looked at, you can use them on multiple devices. So, if you have 1Password or LastPass or something like that, it's likely that you won't need another subscription for your phone. You can just use that same subscription on multiple devices. I'm sure they vary, but I have seen some that operate that way. We will move forward here and just talk quickly about our Cybersecurity for Small Business program. All of our program offerings are no cost, and they generally revolve around one-on-one advising opportunities. I mentioned Cyber Wyoming being on the call today. We are offering their Made Safe in Wyoming program, which is a comprehensive engagement to take an inventory of your systems and software, create a cybersecurity plan, generally make you more cyber ready, and develop policies for your administrative activities and your personnel. Great program, super expert staff to work with. And if you're interested in that sort of an opportunity, please let me know. We'll flash my email at the end of this. But we can also just do one-on-one advising on specific cybersecurity topics. So, for example, we've had several clients in the healthcare industry who have HIPAA considerations that we have done some advising with. We have people in the government contracting world that we are working with to make them ready for certification to conduct government contracting. So any cybersecurity readiness need that you have, we are willing and ready to help you with that in any way that the engagement works best for you. Please reach out, check out our page on our website, 12:30 on the dot. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tyler. Thank you again, everyone, for attending today.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Kaeden. Thanks, Ian, and everybody in attendance. Just to remind you all, the Wyoming Small Business Development Center is here to help you succeed. So please reach out to your local SBDC advisor, Paul in the cybersecurity program, or visit our website. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.